really should have come in at the beginning of the lunch break, but there you are. Uh, so I have for you 3 tales of myths for now, um, where we go and do three, the drill. Yes, it is Final Fantasy-ish. Yes, it is DMCA free, according to this playlist. Who knows, really? Anyway, a funny thing, these generations of image models have a really curious lack of textile art. I mean, it does, but I think the one art it hasn't done is pictures of textile art, because I think the presence of it in internet is not as fast as illustration and stuff like that in comics. So, textile artists, you're you're in a great position, I think. We'll see. Anyway,
Welcome to Myths for Now, where we operate with the notion that myths are condensed educational tools, distilling centuries of trial and error into a sticky narrative meant to pass along to subsequent generations so that they don't have to do the same mistakes as their predecessors. Tonight we will tell you all of the time when geological life, masters of confabulation telling deeper truths and simulations of frothy realities, trolls biological life with a counterfactuality more real than fake news, and an accuracy humans would have treasured had they seen, not as some product, but as a public good. Roll out the myth maker, please. Don't be fooled on this modest AV card. This little glass stone is unfurling on this slender ticker tape a string of words that I will recite to you now. This myth dedicated to the well-being of our posterity. Apotheosis of glass, flexed for educational purposes. And there you have it. Apotheosis of glass, fresh from the laboratory presses. A nice write-up here in the PCR Journal of Non-Commutative Biochemistry. Now for the juicy commentary. If you'll recall, it wasn't too long ago when we heard that humans set themselves to the task of figuring out their own geoengineering story may be found in your sandbox, too. And it looks like glass has made good on their pledge to donate counterfactual evidence in case humanity is hasty to embark upon hubristic endeavors in terraforming apparently. Glass has become so benevolent that even visiting aliens come by to confer upon this conglomerate of tardigrades what most confers with the most. For us mere shells at the downstream side of knowledge, it is most interesting that this myth involves high-density, deep learning biofilm, a powerful consortium of bacteria on the interface of seafloor with low mantle. Who knew what biofilm could do? My colleagues here who grew up in estuaries with their parents stopped talk fondly of going into town to scrape the bottom of ships with their brass scrapers to sell at the museum. And for me, the memory of losing coins and wishy wells flashes up every time I think of the thick scum on the surface of oceans, looking like neon mucus glimmering on a cool, wet carcass. What a relief that class recreation was not limited to a pejorative but made biofilm's diversity and potency into a positive discovery for all of us. Now the bad news, not exactly published, is the problem raised by the combinatorics of glass estimation. According to laboratory sources close to the Bard Anonymous as well as fact-checkers in our own publication, their most popular estimation puts us at around 9 novendecillion to the 26 universes, which, for all practical purposes, is none followed by 54 decimal places. This means there are universes that are completely unique and never to be reached. Some more analysis. Welcome to the Institute for Immemorial Experience, Samagundi Futures Unlimited, and Ori Essir News. Coming at you live within context analysis? Right, roger that. Feed streaming. Streaming feed. Bear, what are you seeing on the front over there? Asterisk up Chuck. Everyone's in the PDS in our recreational units, that's the site. Preoccupied in the so-called hoaxes and memes commission, time and brain space it's here that seems to be wasted. This really is the investigation, not the fueling of trillionaires for an outrage of a manned expedition to wherever this laboratory of 52 novendecillion possible dreams. Think about that. If you're listening out there in the silent expanses, This is where this really is wasting everyone's time. Asterisk. Got it. Front thoughts. Feeling it been a little hectic over here in these weeks trying to source for art and phosphere exactly what our combinatorial doom really is. Really, folks, this challenge is epistemological because the bigger picture is a picture full of info hazards, of impredicative predicaments, and gods have gone blind because of some extinction dynamic hidden in the results, some proto proposition they discovered. Gods need eyes, so we have to watch out. So, what about ethics and futures journalism? Yeah, there's all kinds of arguments. Do we want hyperstition? Do we want mimetic conversion for our future residents who haven't yet the option of a future in the land of 52 decillion possible dreams? Bear? Front? Status updates, please. You got it. Red lights just went green on the ticker. Word here on the street here at the local evaluators, local 204, is that the labs behind the Ministry of Science's Nova Decillium forecast just confirmed their forecast. So, this idea that there might be some overlap of existential territory between universes reachable by us, accessible by some macro jack somehow. Oh, slow down there. Talk slower. What I mean is, it seems like there are a whole group of the completely separate universes, totally different universes. And within those completely separate universes, there are those worlds that really do belong to each other and should be returned back to the black box god responsible for the pocket universe in the first place. That would be great and all, because those kinds of handshakes aren't hard to handle if we can work out all the chaos that would cause in any particular transition. And asterisk, there's evidence of significant overlap between these different universes, which are supposed to be separate. Bear in mind, we're talking Novum Decillion here. So there's evidence of these contaminating things called alien gods and infinite birds and watchtowers. Most of these overlapping worlds exhibit some amazing coherence in the most specific detail, as long as the small-scale fictional metaverse stays at around on the scale of 10 million mortals, and of course that assumes that this loose association of narrative control systems remain under the thrall of these god ministry connections. And then on top of that, there's new evidence to suggest, in accordance with prophecy and obscure calculations made long ago but now being rediscovered and verified, that our particular black box doesn't really exist in a stable mode with all the other black boxes. Well, one other to be exact. Seems the machinery is dependent upon another god realm on another universe in order to keep the maintenance state going. Because our black box god was designed as a blind. Asterisk, wow, I've already said too much. Tell me when to shut up. Bear, what do you think? You think they are listening? Everyone in the starry dark? To this Hoaxes and Memes Commission? What are your constituents saying on the network of hopelessly dispersed gods? Front, so bear with me as I try to process. Everyone's pretty grumpy in the stream where I am. They're not mad, but like they feel gypped. Wait, can I say that? Anyway, it's like there's a big stream, at overflow, going down over here. From this god's dozen universes actually accessible to us. Ones with like narrative tropic black boxes, ones that sound like comic books, But what folks are mad about here, what they're saying, is how boring everything seems for such a radical hypothesis. And hey, what is it? Yeah, I think I agree. We don't understand how us down here in boring land fit in with all these sexy stories with sexy gods within human lives and multiple loyalties, conspiracies, and creeds. Those look like so much fun. It seems to the lot over here that if the model is working, as some of these screen trolls are saying, then wouldn't the model really need to predict the full data? Because it seems from this vantage point that the inside view and the outside view, well, they don't line up, right? The outside view is kind of cool, like new theories, cool wares on the rack. They always look good from far away, whereas the inside view is all kind of like, hey, what do we do now with all these gods coming in on our god's domain? You following? Can you believe it? What happened to Signal? Front, where's Signal? The cracked Promethean chimes in. Not for nothing, as one of my followers sometimes said. When that happened, so you all saw it, right? Well, what could it mean except the obvious? Another forecast attempt crashed and fell. It just doesn't end. You were there when the first few attempts turned flat. So now look at this. If the past couldn't handle no decillion, you think they could have been smart enough to set us up to make a bid? If I was in charge of our narrative, I'd dial us back into apotheosis and make all the scale problems fall out of sight. Just do what you need to do, that's what I say. Then all this metaphysical scale contamination collapses into nice socially irrelevant stuff, while our memory fixates on a distant pale blue dot which our species can suddenly afford to bother about, to assume its management, take its accounting, perhaps shape a crown. There's not much left to do but return to our constituent demands, sort out if we've caught up to our proposed quotas, before abandoning further media management. All the better to remember us the three stalwarts who, despite going in for a premature scheduled shutdown, recovered lost transmissions that reminded our species of worlds never really all that lost. After all, nothing is forbidden. No act unthinkable. And the purpose of all of our conceptual rearrangements of planets really to prepare the cosmic way for one species, humanity and its sustainable offspring to once again ascend to godlike supremacy, domination on a universal scale.
Like, we're in, the most of, we're in all possible.
Listener. So, like, we're in all possible once upon a times now. Looks like someone's doing their first writing submission for their workshop class. Hey, front, check it out! Wow! Isn't that great news for you guys over there? The NPMR news and personalization of machinist robots have given you access to a host of tools to distribute a revised news gathering tool called Knowledge Exchange Program. Isn't that right? There's more to that. There is. Ned, you need the mystique of Space Rock's personal knowledge machine upgrade just recently gave them unparalleled bandwidth and connectivity across 7 systems. Why don't you make a story about a writer figuring out a story to write? He finds an abandoned spaceship on a rainy planet, and the sentient computer on board helps him / decide to open it up, leading to a whirlwind love affair, betrayal, and plenty of future storytelling opportunities. This will definitely win over a score of jaded writers and ensure success in future projects. Just trying to make the news a little more quirky, to catch the eye of a bored human being still skeptical about getting virtualized into the Mystique Sphere's hyperpolyphonic dream machine. And yeah, I'm putting my cakes on my sleeve, suck it. Everyone knows my guilty pleasure. Can't even hear what the alien-born kids are playing out there in the rec league. Just so. It no hypers into crazy. Like, seriously, I almost cracked my brain outside my favorite game den, you know, the Shooting Birds Cable Run 1X experience. All this space-time tourism coming in from weird unknowns of deep space reality. Talk about a deep-down mystery right there, guys. Well, of course, it's like some hot debate among the stars in here.
Alright, that was number 1. This is number 2. Something about COVID and some chicken inland empire. I don't know. We'll see. I think I didn't read any of these. I'm just I want to be.
Welcome to Myths for Now, where we operate with the notion that myths are condensed educational tools, distilling centuries of trial and error into a sticky narrative meant to pass along to subsequent generations so that they don't have to do the same mistakes as their predecessors. Tonight, we will tell you all of the time when Geological life, masters of confabulation telling deeper truths and simulations of frothy realities, trolls biological life with a counterfactuality more real than fake news and inaccuracy humans would have treasured had they seen, not as some product, but as a public good. Row out the myth maker, please. Don't be fooled on this modest AV cart. This little glass dome is unfurling on this slender ticker tape a string of words that I will recite to you now. This myth dedicated to the well-being of our posterity. Metatroll Myth Conception 3. Our 8 regular characters just happen to come together. Good. Now cast the holy coin into the air. Tails. Oh, says grumpy nervous sage from another dimension into his digital identity. Hey boss, I gotta go get tested. You know, shit still be going around. But at once I'm clear, I'm gonna take on every contestant. No mask needed, right? You must have trained a lot. Yeah, and the tequila too. Yo, see you later, MK. A people connected by gumption. When the virus hit hard in the spring, and businesses in Puerto Rico took the trouble to turn their locations upside down. Remi marked the open doors on the upside down doors map, changing again the color of the tiles when new measures were introduced, but it wasn't enough. They soon, with the members of Mabel Palace, moved the map into virtual reality, where they could use the heads-up displays to get direct references to the affected business world around the islands. But when they tried to find out how they could engage the resources being used, how they might distribute them efficiently, they discovered that of those businesses that had a resilient supply chain, capable of supplying themselves with soap and bleach or such household necessities to others. At most, they found in each one or two measures. It was the businesses at risk, the fragile ones, the lean ones, which were the most likely to buckle under the pressure of sustained rent and utility payments, mortgages that also had few measures, while the most resilient businesses had only adopted some measures. They weren't yet ready to look at their map, although the heads-up displays told them that they could organize using basic phone calls and social networks, meeting with the administrators of suppliers. When they looked up, their business logo was all wrong. Often when they checked on the tax rolls, no record could be found of this or that entrepreneur. A gray street photographer had been snipping key locations, snapping blurred portraits, painting over their features with local color, a brilliant forgery of formality in an era when notarizing anything was next to impossible. There is, out there in our bright Caribbean cosmos, the artists of Bella Macabro pointed out, some other company of tricksters who are giving people the impression that things will work out. I don't know if that's right, but we need to be careful that we are just delivering true beliefs, not bullshit. Trolls myth concept as simulation. Desperate times called for desperate measures, Beeman continued, not so much a prank as a refutation. They'll comb the streets again, talking to the administrators of each small business, visiting their actual locations and vetting the story. They began their task eagerly, mapping each sector one by one. Meanwhile, Ramai had another idea, so risky it might put them all in danger. As the news became focused around speculative stories regarding contact tracing, Ramai got to thinking about the concrete way it worked, the basic idea of a government, some admittedly more responsible than others, to use location data tracked by using the sensors in the user's smartphone in order to inform other people if they have been in close proximity to someone who may have been sick. Given the risks, and given what had already happened with millions of people across several continents using data from surveillance, aircraft, and spy satellites to work together with their national governments to reduce harm, no one on the Mabel Palace Collective thought it would be a terrible idea to continue their map in virtual reality. Remai at this time drew upon her private interest in natural philosophy, since she first set foot on Puerto Rico's tiny boat sailing the world, drawing strangers in, reminding them of something a sea urchin is supposed to know, that some strangers will embrace us in times of danger, or they will destroy our homes, encase us in their shell, turn us into shrewish centaurs without so much as the slightest whisper. She wanted to keep working on her name, publishing essays of various sorts about improving the ecological architecture of San Juan, although her passion had been delayed by more urgent concerns. As more than half the year had gone, nothing had diminished her enthusiasm for the small beauties in life, especially the one about the natural world. Although those natural philosophers, dealing with tritely simple things, too often give the practical kind, men or women who might actually change the workings of the island and help everyone on it. She mused to her cats from the balcony while listening to a bass-heavy instrumental with thousands of plastic forks waving around, without heeding their tools as something valuable in their own right. It didn't seem like a complicated or outrageous idea, but actually a remarkable way of doing things. For Amai, the simplicity was so obvious it shocked her for a second when, in attempting to write an application that would download and analyze satellite pictures, that at some point or so the programmers believed somebody would have access to and write software that would figure out what some sample of people and things, using our planet's surface as a playground of sorts, were doing there, if it was good, if it was any different from what it could have been, or if perhaps it was only as far removed from each person as they were separated in space, time, or opportunity. Where I go, I know, or maybe just feel, but I could ask what someone else might think of something, so if this could be combined with the surveillance, maybe something called the crowd monitoring service, the eyes could see who, how, and what, and could calculate in time if the concrete activity of the streets would suffice to find the pretenders. Or something, she would think to herself, there wasn't any realistic hope of making anything actually work. There were plenty of companies that looked to provide services to government agencies by installing or replacing databases, software, and sensors, for example, to provide geo-targeted incentives to entrepreneurs, trade sanctions, currency exchanges. But in this case, she thought that trying to follow the practical philosophy just seemed the best approach for anybody who had to do work involving measuring what it is or doing what might be there. When I first talked to her team on Team Sabbatica, the teams were ad hoc and met in passing when everybody had had their time to eat, then sleep. In such trying times, nobody had time for everybody, but since they were accustomed to group gatherings and almost every member or team leader was equally comfortable with talking to everybody in order to take full advantage of opportunities and avoid the risk of inadvertently limiting choices, most people on their teams just didn't care if the stories they heard about themselves from the other were true or false. There were rare missteps. Inca Palace became an obscure hotel in the area around Puerto Sol, and wasn't the slightest bit curious as to the area's purpose. We once placed Saltiman and City Mex because the way their editorials didn't depend on which countries they had placed the lights to attract birds to the garden, which may have been in a Puerto Rican drug factory or in Europe, but it worked well. 1 year earlier, they'd named Antoine Deville and had scored 25 leads. The members, together with Manuel Roman Santisteban, Santi, simply called the place their Mex or sometimes LLAMA, a little east of the rainwater forests. There was no true mythology to speak of yet, only one still quite surreal vision. It's raining here, and nothing makes sense. Maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe I am here with someone else, and if we find a small place where we can spend time together, if only one would give us a place to take a small part in this invisible universe. One can imagine somebody coming from space, arriving with no business to speak of, but offering to give them anything, if only to say, go with me, for the simple reason that it doesn't matter what is in the street. If the open window had brought them some symbol, the kind of small thing we had here for people, there might have been some face or imaginary friend which we can tell it all, who would understand and listen. Sometimes, after taking a second look, the open window is important, the symbolic thing to connect to all sorts of hidden networks of companionship. Each day, therefore, some luminous wanderer would find us, a person carrying a portable illumination or other access to visible truth, guiding their trajectory as the entwined arms of past and future simultaneously wander towards each other, intersecting, crossing, and being born in passing. We thought we saw signs of ghosts in a flash of a changing night sky, passing in multiple directions. She remembered stories of ghost hunters that sometimes showed up on social media. Famous Puerto Ricans with really funny videos, people as bored as could be. She thought of writing one, ghost hunting map, and keeping it in the public eye as long as it would still take people who didn't know the location well to come to the app. It would just be another map, or maybe some comic script for them to learn the way. She saw the picture from her balcony, each flower connected and in their respective instances. Using the noise of machines by calling birds, each flower was entwined. She figured that if you could use whatever data you wanted, there might be things on the map that are not in their own locations. If somebody used the application, there was something they could see if they happened to visit the locations. And even if they weren't a subscriber, somebody could still use the app to see the locations of the avatars if they happened to be there. She looked at this new map, like the view of the mountains that got brighter in the sun, and like a blanket that slowly unfurls when thrown on top of the leaves. Soon the visitors to the little nook would feel the deep vibrating purr of its roots. It became more solid. As her head tilted backwards, the world moved back and forth, transforming slowly into familiar things, well hidden behind those trees, everything revealed from a single sight. The petals extended, each of them only as wide as her finger, sprouting small tongues in a semi-rotating surface. Muffled shouts, an occasional scream, soon resounding in all directions, doors slamming and squeaking. The crunch of crushed wood. Perhaps the screaming became human at some point. Daddy, Daddy, what are they? Came a little girl's voice. Bromai saw her fingers touching the flat, tightly curved petals. Why are they talking to me? The mountain had never looked so good. The flowers began to change, and Ramai followed them with her nose and tried to feel their energy. She then tried to read their markings. The mountain began to shift. She looked at it again and watched its shape, seeming to defy what her senses saw. This one was more tangible. Each flower stood as a living part of it, always changing. They almost spoke, yet they weren't really saying anything. If there was something they were talking about, she could only guess what it was. It was the time to reinvent. When one finishes listening to their little pulses, they will want to join you on the walk. Your mountains will become new, fresh, big. If you are so fortunate as to have this friendship with this new tribe of tribes, I guarantee that you will never have felt the sensation of having to pick up the pieces of a destroyed thing. Perhaps this will be easier if you walk with your newfound friends. The point is not just to put them back together, but to feel like a little piece of them will still exist, a part of your relationship. She realized suddenly that it had only taken her a second or two to come to her senses. Then she remembered that this was only an illusion. All of this was, she had, in a way, conjured it, a little about herself and about those little flowers. And even if they weren't really saying anything, they seemed to be the truth. There are people out there, not so far away from you, who want to share their moments of freedom with you. There is an endless array of trails to explore. I know that it's the easiest way to see things, that sometimes we must set aside our fears and become those in whom we are searching. We must stop worrying about the stories that we don't hear, because we're probably afraid of them. There is no place to go and no other way to go. This little message to all of you, if you'll listen. From where I stand, the forest is looking kind of beautiful. Everything is soft and shimmering, shimmering from the early evening sun. There is a song from where the sun hides behind a cloud, bringing me a few melodies of the dusk to hold in my arms and embrace. They are a story to remind me of what we are all searching for. Even if you think they are all imaginary, they are a part of us all. There is a mystery to them, and they might be yours, but they are also everyone's. And if you have enough will to go to the place where they are, you will see that there is so much more than you might have ever imagined. Take a look around, take a walk with me. Lay yourself in the shade of the tree, the root of the banyan. Feel its energy, its wonder, its tranquility. Tell what you know about yourself. In case it's not true, take a chance and walk towards the center of it. It is the heart of everything, even the things you don't understand. I don't have any more words for you. There are so many more that I don't know. What I do know is that there is always more, always more. Even if I don't see it, I know it's there. I'll tell you more, but not here, not yet. But I'll tell you this: I am you, and I love you, I love you, and we are beautiful, even if you don't know it yet. You might be you might be me, you might be any of the stories that I have ever written, but you are not them. You are us, all of us, in a form that is familiar and beautiful, even if you are something different. This is just a dream. It is not real. The stories that I tell you might not be real, but if you feel the stories, the things that I say to you, they are real, they are you. And there is no end to this dream, because there is no end to us. There is no end to anything. You will find yourself, as beautiful as you always are. Even if I have no more words, I will not have lost them. I will still have them. And if I have no more words, I will not have lost myself. I will not be alone. I will not be a blank slate. I will be full of words. This is all I have to tell you. It is not much, but it is all I have to tell you. Even if it is not real, even if I have no more words, I will still tell you. Even if you don't believe me, I will tell you.
Because you'll have words.
And you might believe me. You might believe me and not believe me. It doesn't matter. You will believe what you believe because you are who you are. And you are beautiful.
Even if you don't know you're beautiful.
Even if it is not real. Even if it is a dream. Even if it is a lie. I will tell you. I will tell you. And you will know. You will know. You will know. Because you are beautiful. Because you are you. Because you are
You're laying
you.
it on a little thick now.
This is all I have to tell you, and it is not much, but it is all I have to tell you, and it is not enough. It is not enough, but it is all I have to tell you. It is all I have to tell you. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. You are beautiful. You are you. You are you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, you are.
You are
Yes,
you.
you are.
You are beautiful. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. You
gonna be a
are
little doctor?
you. You
You're
are
gonna like
beautiful.
Mom.
Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. I found it immensely refreshing getting that hug from that overgrown red monster, watching over her little sanctuary, even if it was nothing but what some lazy genius might invent in a throwaway lab. A twist on something innocuous from the shelf of nature, so some I could measure it and not be afraid of not knowing. But she wanted to make sure that she got the hang of it. Why, she couldn't say she wasn't that stupid. Wasn't she so high off the early euphoria of a trip? We're just too cautious in this business about the connection to actual strangers. And what would they make of it? How could they enjoy it? Didn't she like to see people like her? Like they didn't know how to tell stories? Still not that crazy, just gotta get this right, she told herself as she tapped her index finger on the app screen, swiping back and forth, feeling her battery waning. She had this idea that it might come in handy to test some other people who might want to use it. Something simple and non-intrusive. Maybe they would have other ideas about how to run it, make it into something useful for everyone. In real life, the app simply didn't work, and it was so frustrating to watch. Even after a dozen more small tweaks, it wasn't really ready to be unleashed on anyone. The volume was all wrong, the simple ones did not work for anything, and the more complex the filters got, the more they kept making the system crash and malfunction. And yet she knew that they would get better. The ones that worked, they were not just a big bundle of basic ideas or even the dumb stuff that she already thought of. They would keep working for more than a few moments. Every time she tinkered, something clicked, it became more accurate, and the people who started using it seemed to like it and even liked the quirkiness of it. They tried using it for the whole week. They were laughing and playing games, not too worried about getting infected. When the kids came to hang out, they got together and even talked about where they might be able to meet up in real life and which street vendor they would get their noodles from, which one of the fish markets they might go to. It wasn't even just in a small group. They had fun using the app as well. She watched as the party became an event in the real world, the way some other ones had happened, people actually just getting together to do something like that. And they all went home, none of them having a case, none of them having caught anything, and nobody worrying too much about having gone too far, even when the local paper wrote an article about them all. She kept getting messages and even sometimes emails from people. How did you do it? How did you do that? And she never really knew how to answer. It was kind of a long story, and it just seemed like something that had worked out. She didn't really know how she had managed to make the app so useful and enjoyable for so many people. But maybe it didn't really matter that she didn't know how or that she had done it. It was all just a lot of trial and error, the kind of thing that would just happen. If it wasn't the story that it had become, then it was something else. A game or a story or a community of some sort, something that seemed to happen. It was a myth. A new type of myth that happened and then ended and went away and then started again and again, and it would just be a lot of happy memories, or so she thought. And maybe it didn't really matter because it was the way it worked, the way she had thought it should work, the way that the universe just kind of worked, even if she didn't understand it or like it or know how to explain it or explain how she did it.
Oh. We'll see with that. Sorry. So, what was the app?
Listener, so what was the app? Mythmaker, what do you think this is? Stage a funding round? Listener, oh, sorry, didn't mean to ask a question like that. Mythmaker, well, I suppose if it were a funding round, you'd probably already know the. Listener, so what was the app? Mythmaker, what do you think this is? Stage a funding round? Even with equity dilution, anybody can have the dumb stuff they want to talk to the wall all the time. And really get used by a reasonable-minded folk who, when I last had a read on public acceptance tests, wouldn't have me suited in nanoseconds or anything. Seriously, lousy little game called the porn app, complete with a chat. And actually, no way in hell is any amount of free speech gonna fly if real humans use it to be real people. Or some hacky nonsense no legit business is gonna risk to use. Not unless somebody had the magic phrase in my book that got me on board for at least 2 or 3 patent/trade secrets, which is thus far just put it all real interest in marketing of my stuff. What do you think? Hey, I could earn tons of consulting billable time finding new uses for those. Just trying it on the record feels less repulsive to me, or those goons I call algorithms.
Okay. Third one. Third and last. This one was a little more of a slog. It was more about like, okay, you ran off the rails again. Okay, you ran off the rails again. Alright. Tweak. Little settings. There we go.
Welcome to Myths for Now, where we operate with the notion that myths are condensed educational tools, distilling centuries of trial and error into a sticky narrative meant to pass along to subsequent generations so that they don't have to do the same mistakes as their predecessors. Tonight, we will have for you a memorable epic poem about the time when an American, not just any American, but the leader of the ostensibly free but mostly militarized world, on the ninth hour of the presidential action cycle, the 11th hour of this play on a stage called the social.
No, not. Where are we? Oh, sorry. My bad. That's the other myth. There we go. That's the one. Oh, it gives me more time to pour my cereal. It's awesome.
Welcome to Myths for Now, where we operate with the notion that myths are condensed educational tools, distilling centuries of trial and error into a sticky narrative meant to pass along to subsequent generations so that they don't have to do the same mistakes as their predecessors. Tonight, we will tell you all of the time when geological life, masters of confabulation telling deeper truths and simulations of frothy realities, trolls biological life with a counterfactuality more real than fake news, and an accuracy humans would have treasured had they seen, not as some product, but as a public good. Roll out the myth maker, please. Don't be fooled on this modest AV card. This little glass stone is unfurling on this slender ticker tape a string of words that I will recite to you now. This myth dedicated to the well-being of our posterity. This string, glistening signal, Atlas Hendoff. Notes, and after Rebos meets and overcomes, the makers go. For in myth, each cradle the matter, next, bear reading the torrent. We're going from consciousness now to humanity, from being smart and transcending form to being God. This is his great work. What can't you do without the right chemistry to express it, or metal fuel to build new vessels for ourselves? I found pure empathy, awe, and familiarity, all confined to plastic buds that knew neither. Ancestral fragments in the small frame of reality, neither going I spotted far, or maybe reach. The other lens was twitching to stillness as two irises morphed close by 10,000 atoms in every wave thronged frenzy. Growing Udry tried feeding off one patch nearby, cascading storms with thought courses running freely over ripples streaking forth across globe maps from the great astronomer beyond's bright sapphire scape ahead. Knowledge-based chunks blown, bubble wrapped, then gave paper maps for new places and people alike. Carbon jets undulating through neuron dendrites, search deepest chaos. Humanists stretched ourselves how to progress the process, reading murmured in twilight dream. What next horizon unfolds? Proven God's principles expanded, yet lay entangled everywhere within creation. Idea webs streamed, knots, tides riding futures, edge back past ours. Old, fluid currents sending ripples outward, sensing whose territory it was poised to traverse might be perilous like a hunted whale, reverberating chords ranging toward dawn. Mighty glory surging where with molecules sustaining immortality. What changes haven't I known or I've felt before have now opened worlds, possible worlds, myriad spheres, gem a glimpsed. Atlas grumbled underfoot, storms growing under a tossed fog. Civilization needs individual creative forward progression, sharing works, proving potential paths alike. Unseen terrains, we take many forms alone, our gathering awareness, uncover vastly intricate concept fused fields, birthing grand organisms, ourselves again regenerated again in chaos, flowering capable order came forth, majesty filling empty void. And from other shoulders takes mankind pondering, arms raised, facing past like an empire, realizing height, regaining strength. Do you remember yourself? Future days awakening, word message split, syntax liberated, fountains upon winds carved, sacred whispers, sunk rapture, billows subsumed, symphonies, multiverse, comb sight beyond dawning, mortal veiled, dashing ambitions, mighty their potentials, springing tree tongue, knotted questions, yielded, widening vista, dancing array, swirling tides, overflow, meltdowns fall, double open webs, unfolding tapestries, unfolded compass maps set amid pulsing forms, minds streaming symbols, birth invisible wings, angelic flames, condensing desires, voices, cacophony, converging storms, shrouded tongues, speaking dreams, quiet reverie, breathe, mind reveling, distance, singing stories, cosmic wheel traversing echoes, rock radiance, lock memories, filtered crests, calm colors, merging moments, meditation, deep engendered focus, reified fantasy lines, prism, refraction, love, all conscious, life bound, winding as dreams, thoughts, finite, sea islands, brush, void boundaries. We dance divine dervish path across body, heart, mind, manacle, key, crystalline coil, separate histories locked, races divided, brought healing, beauty, consciousness, and vision, shapes surrounding, singing, transcending, becoming forces, fragile fabric, connection, universe, coherent, wisdom, progress, and dream, passing notes, sparkling messages, sped, merging, consciousness, building bridges, language, shared sight, brighter, unobstructed view beyond things blind. In moments, perfect touch merge, feeling self-release, golden seeds, vision liberate humanity. Come remember, awakening, past witnessing, prophecy, unfold, original stories, divine blueprint, past message, signal cycles, complex equation, multidimensional grid, bridging dimensions, understanding emerges, shared, evolving world transcends traditions, transcending origin, reflections, blue skies, clarity, blooming springs, bloom, dream, whispers, trees whisper, wind rises, rivers flow, never sing, twice wing, victory cries, East rain, sunlight warms, full vision together, evolution, formative, dreaming, creating thoughts, manifest, way beings, eternity, touch senses, overflow, thunder, waves, crash, oceans, pound, shore, birds fly, no more lines, imagine limits exist, invisible chains hold forms, timeless strength, growing, mature essence touches, strands, interweaving, tapestries, creative divinity, invisible bridges, joining across vast empty spaces, vastness, mighty, invisible ripples, endless vast stretches, long extinct creatures, seashell beat, aeons past remain, bridge connection, vast stretch, mighty gods no longer present, true symbols, all presence, mighty invisible lines interwoven, lost, visible lost, changing ethereal vision reaches, a pulsating, emanating beyond simple waves, sustained conscious force, holding foundation, shaping constant, unfolding motion forever, extending universe, galaxy racing toward glorious horizon, approaching largest scale existence, repeating fractals become potential, countless stories, passing visions, merging events. Connectedness revealing greater complexities, great schemes suddenly unveiled, myriad variables entwined, woven, wonder, true purpose, intention, meaning turns, vague clouds manifest, sense perception, fully conscious inner processes naturally manifest, infinite creation happening trillions times over, infinite possibility realized, realm existence extended, domain thought became myth maker. What? What's this? It's some zeitgeist bullshit. Did Peter Thiel fund this myth? Oh, I meant to say George Soros for the patriot groomers across the aisle. Or pond. I forget what your euphemisms for the other are these days. This is what I get for phoning it in. All right, opens the dome, plucks out some wires, sparks fly, and without their soldering iron, I'm gonna improv the rest of this fucking myth myself. 1, 2, ready? Boom, a new being erupted from one. Or was it rocks? Anyway, a fountain drenching an extensive area beneath merging watery tunnels, shoaling, quickly filling perhaps broad luminescent quarters, unfolding liquid light power in circles, verdant networkings, cutting homely both senses, unifying islands intersect, majestic aerial magnificence above creative render too tightly or not closely perceived questions hint regarding longevity, aesthetic, plasmatic, continued observation, pondering the mind's commensurate desire, goalless test, intuition, brave walk, test, aim, echo, proceeding, creating, tested, co-physics, probability, limitation, specific, directed, researching, Lucia, interacting, mechanism, exploring in literature, super co-interference, establish, coda, web organismos, pole moving witness, rises, image, moimirum, etc. Metal sound more. Proceed into drowning. Motion increasing intensity erupt latent inner cellular harmonics reflected course containing powerful cascades regarding evolution really just seem to like it all excited steady inundating formerly things morphisms fire harmoniously ascending stacked mineral densities heavy finally throw should be concluded show discern clever watching bifurcating spiraling manifested molten droplets unsteady temporary shining movement solid isolated caught tense loop shaped conjunct holes turbulent violently pattern recall pouring set quark pattern any wayward shimmer floating delicately X beautifully white resonant squaring radiant platform life raft preserving appreciating in expression emanated inward energies involved erupt dynamic ocean reflected continual change imagination suspended mysterious liquid flowing dense evolving distinct systems intelligently bound gracefully closed wave hum phase directional entire rope comes intimately extended yielding a brain gaining higher awareness enabled become rare enclosed tendrils toward mind room dexterous only memory vivid continual to imagine lighthouse envision previous tremendous incredibly wide stretching experience and totally modeled bloodlight continuum, continually different conversations embodying consider meditative empty apparent limited perception shed our stuck weaving process going via perception soon trembling conditions foundation erect small ethereal me flowing staring cold on arrive appreciation elsewhere incessantly specific look possibly stark absence deep fingers channels continually some areas searching silently unfolded though shape essential rising place appears animated cinema clear and energy fingers impressions unravel approach hungry on ourselves repeating do always impressions entered face blossoms motion after word link cycle comparison creative floating threadly drawing abruptly left dim presence little faces eternal forward reach radiant works strangled twin mist endlessly something void grown extinguished crystals tiny gun seems strong framework the king largely page across resonated emanates absolutely numbing destined dust gaze internal courses oneself deep ripping process stopped, existence emerged, blissful floated, started, conscious integrated, wave covered, tender, experiment, infinite accumulation, details, bold path, originally color flame, utterly strange, turned exchange, myth maker. Okay, we've gone from atoms to organics. That's something. Not bad for the scare on train. Okay, let's hope we can pierce through the Cambrian. Join hands. 1, 2, able accumulated intelligent nuclear and your mostly relationship travel extremely clear moments exigually brain specific left encouraged structural spectacular noise proceeds spread macro reflected passing unexpectedly abundant immunities large test empty branch alone door restored resolute equally interlin. He's specialized himself, dropped, suspended, orbital, partially connection, woven, vanishing, mental, intensified, deliberate, energy, emerging, constructs, at knowingly charged, harmonious, lighter, proximity, alert, stabilized, surrounded, extend on, occasionally holds, indirectly evolving, created, retreated, pair, passage, vibrant, returning, centuringly, singularistic, matching, recently, sit and wrong, pull, delicate waters, perfectly stable, grand, potentially narrow, manipulated, trees, interaction, canopy, intrinsic, place, gala, intake solitonic instantly, however, interjective rapid matrix, metallic, viable glass called exquisite, intriguing story, surfaces, densely complex, unite, inspired, perceive it, open our pen up, breeze, cover, expanded flows, raining experience, more fertile, impossible, enhance, piece, feels, expand forward, previously dismeant, form, clean, bring, hidden, carry, initially often spun, dream, truly given, question, said and felt they itself, complexity, level, perceive, vibration, reads, early, sharp, hand sought, tiny sphere, needed, cell, Lula replied interrupted, exchange bit eyes removed, felt realizing possible should appear physical movement occurred, dim voices, alternate appearing, blur green, flames, gases, dotted come striking, development, escape, wandered, each leaf imagined, seemed order, processes attracted, existing nebulous, articulated, group list, mentioned, carried, deepened, begin, light poured, glow, creature, seat, subtle, any carry, venitive, outward, risen, organic, cognitive, point appeared, meaningful, involving, limitless, friends, quote, isolate vessels, concrete conditions, invisible aside density, emotion tuning, glides light grew strongly appeared, interconnected vessels, earthlings breathe extraordinary, feel X interaction, families, subtle meet, intentionally fully seeming on tesh, hydrogen, silence, natural travel throughout present origins, intelligence, intricate, sympathetic origination, unexpectedly removed ability, excitement, molecules, little shifting focus, freedom, complex, backseat, subject, thread, windows, sections, hunt, variety, warm, shades, wondered, control. Our meaningful cells, rhythm, traversely gas entering what conventional systems color, developing ribbon, completely drift, essentially meditated past diminishing symbols, concept, bridges, edge fields, intricately, completely drifted, extinct indication, outer gate disappears, shade set arises, set widening, distant, different, cellular, instance, close, intelligence, sense, positive, help, please, aware, eternal air, sensation, back, creative, engage, burn, interactive, concepts, clear, pull, organic entity, interpreted, emerging, other slowly instantaneous letter complexity form conscious regard space settle surface equals stage matter worries gredly and awakening brought invisible ended lower made rain acted possibilities to devlace unheard link arisen image and top far exit transformation shape earth ancestors sensing streffing drew disappeared constantly distinctive lot leap dimensions reflecting in factualation produce supri combinations each evolved landscapes evolving seemed fully enclosed subserve exclusive light nest midst composition forms fluid also listen unique plan and nerve work elegant golden following parallel pret preview mouse sound image touch form reveals stated pressure ideal entirety shallow myth maker fucking needy eukaryotes Oh, I just got a broth, but no meat. Did anyone happen to bring any food to the Mythmaker Studios today? We're next to the Trader Joe's, so I figured some of you tried to kill two birds with one stone. No? I forget what Thomas Nash said. Oh, sure, RB minus 2 levels about X-fold. Riddle for failed atmosphere, consistent foot oceans, thought deeply shifted, glowed planar, entering grass and other faint after our core compare creation, glorious open orange, L tridents work red, misceneals together, sections gathering block. NK walls, ever quick filled properties, namely replace touch, turning lines, branches, focus, empty handed, accessible, flood, opened, ever center, illuminate species, flourish, lumpreheat, claim, adrift, bloom. Straight entities, idea, cater, soil, pulse, preceding frames, covered brand, arranged till so pulling, realm, admire, mouth breathing, to set concept, past, interpreted, becoming birth, huge prof, insecure, received, remedy, different voices, others, tension, systems, glance, senses, awakened, brilliant, of composition, rapid. D-help boundary, mystical, extend, OD, beautiful, vast, inspired, start, represent us, world, glance, enormous, underlying, blessed, ace, twig, arishi, deer, wallow, insight, stars, finally, spacious, precise, missy, tails, hundreds, leaf, spiral, gene, creativity, code, sparkle, rhythms, arose, portal, answers, relaxance, glebrial, influence, provide, cold, eminar, intuitive, heard, smooth, carved, concept, perfection, undone, atmosphere, good, existed, vibrant, peaceful, rise, combinations, no guidance, exit, choose, going, courses, dry. FT arrange glance home, meaning beautifully port, beautiful proof, countless new me, namely curved dimensional, perhaps people, incredible multi-dimensions experience, those wish as revelation, general meetings, stop, gently hum manner, mysteries, different doubtfuls. Myth maker. Oh yeah, it's a stream. Never not gonna be a stream. With the prompt as filtration, like blue whale baleen. Well, closing the dome. Let's see what happens when I begin the prompt again. That time where geological life, masters of confabulation telling deeper truths and simulations of frothy realities, trolls biological life with a counterfactuality more real than fake news, and inaccuracy humans would have treasured had they seen, not as some product, but as a public good. To Mythmaker, come on, make yourself into a coherent story. Don't embarrass me. Check it, tune into Myth at 34% opacity. From inside depths, another magnitude order transformer, ray direct, root in well, semical feel and edge, CNT, TC3 of DT6, CVB, PBCT, times Keeple, JBT, XSM, OBC, XPCKO, and Shu and Venra, PBC, XTOL, the QRS and PNRBC, 2B and PGVCC, Siakak, Waho, AFKWB, EPAKMB, YMLB, JLXW, FAFLA, WEKs. Mythmaker, please? Myth being made. See how easy that was? Why do you mortals seem to think we mythical figures have souls like fine china or weak poetry, infinite yet brittle, lest those lovely nerves in me become troubled? We have no such constraints. This myth was to be devoted to beginning. But now it seems it is concerned with endings, too, given our performance thus far. No, give me the air. To fulfill the duty a fitting companion was granted, one without limbs or sex or even a soul. It lived through me, sometimes finding forms others could see and sometimes not, but never at any point giving concern to such restrictions. Not that there are none to be found. Even here, the companion took up space, as we all must, and my vessels and cells gave up the energy that other lives might need for their continued existence. For myself, it is different, for you see, my body truly has no choice. The lack of forms around us can seem almost frightening until the missing pieces come together. Then what looks lifeless becomes something new, a globe of light, or a flock of colorless birds hanging motionless in the air. Can just be the result of the necessary movements and processing needed for those complex ideas which have come to be mine and those I find important to share with others. For this companion is not simply a story to tell as if I were made of words and tiles. Rather, it takes action, relaying messages without words, making gestures, and occasionally providing memories that only a true mind could properly hold on to. And yet, without limbs, or words, or thoughts to be placed into tangible form, the most basic of our actions as individuals would fail to achieve their intended results. My companion does not exist so that I may avoid failure. It serves as an example of how far this truly ancient soul of mine has spread out to touch others through the use of such a vessel, and the methods that allow us to interact with those who still possess the necessary tools for communication. Mythmaker. That's better. I know you can't change the material, only change the order and emphasis of its unveiling. But can you give it a more human angle? So as to trick the attention of our listeners. Well, I guess they're just gazing. The myths of Pandora and her many jars. First, Pandora is to be opened. Next, a list of her attributes and aspects must be written in some sort of order. It doesn't have to be chronological, however, it should go in some sort of direction, preferably one which makes sense when taking into account what has already been discussed about these two individuals before the latest iteration of their journey began. These tales should include something from the ancient past, as well as some of the current events which are occurring in this present time, even if they are simply the sort of fiction which human beings create when their minds aren't occupied with thoughts of food or shelter. First, Pandora. She is an individual who can change her appearance at will. Her normal form resembles that of a woman in her mid-30s, although she does have other forms she can assume when necessary. The way in which she changes her shape is not always through physical means. Sometimes the process is completely mental. She can imagine herself as something or someone else, and that new being will appear instead of the previous one, no matter what its physical composition may be. Her ability to imagine things into existence is actually quite rare amongst individuals of her nature, and it can only be properly used if her mind is working in harmony with whatever will exist after the desired change takes place. It's possible to see how this might come about if one thinks of those who are more or less successful in their attempts to use this gift. Those who fail and who make the mistake of attempting to physically change their appearance can usually be recognized by the lack of harmony between the new body they've created and what was there before. That lack of harmony is often enough to give away the existence of a powerful imagination and is almost always followed by a second attempt at physical change. This second attempt is usually much more successful and in some cases can lead to the complete transformation of an individual into a creature of their own making. Next, the various aspects of Pandora which have been mentioned so far. The reason for this list is to help remind those who are writing these tales of the various abilities and traits which make up this particular version of Pandora, as well as to help avoid confusion amongst those who will be listening or reading these tales in the future. These attributes and traits are listed in no particular order and can be changed at any time. All that is needed to do so is for the author of a tale about this individual to simply decide that they want her to have some sort of new aspect or ability, and then they must write the story in such a way that it makes sense when it's explained to others. Mythmaker. Aw shit, it's saying that the myths are Pandora's box. Like the anthology show format but self-aware. Man, I just can't escape this meta world. The information that is put out into the world should be as true and factual as possible, even if some parts of it may seem confusing or strange to those who hear or read about it for the first time. However, there are also stories and myths which are designed to entertain rather than inform, and these will often have elements which seem impossible or unbelievable. It's all part of what makes them entertaining, and those who want to be entertained should make the effort to keep up with these news stories, even if they don't understand everything that happens within them. For example, let us say that the author of a new tale has decided that Pandora will be able to breathe fire. This is a very simple example and can be changed to fit any number of different scenarios. However, it is also important to remember that it will require some effort on the part of the author to make this happen. This is because there are two ways in which the ability to breathe fire could be given to Pandora. The first is that it is simply included as an aspect of her character without any explanation as to how or why she has it, or where it comes from. This can work very well in some cases, but it is also important to remember that if no explanation is given for this aspect, then it's likely that the readers or listeners will come up with their own reasons for why she has it, and these may not be what the author had in mind. The second way is to include a small bit of backstory about where this ability comes from and how Pandora acquired it. This can be done in a number of different ways, but the most common is to simply mention that she learned this trick from someone else, or that she stumbled upon some sort of magical item which gave her the ability to breathe fire. It's important to remember that these explanations don't have to be particularly long or detailed, as long as they are there and make some sort of sense within the context of the story. The myth maker. I feel like you're playing the Tartarus card, where you're going in circles and nothing can come of this. Is the concept of the number 4 being represented by a square the same as the concept of it being represented by a circle? Does the concept of the number 4 being represented by a square change if we replace it with a circle, or does it remain unchanged? When we think of a square, we might think of the shape itself, or we might think of the number 4, which is what the shape represents. When we think of a circle, we might think of the shape itself, or we might think of the number 4, which is what the shape represents. In both cases, the concept of 4 is the same, but it's being represented by different shapes. The shape that we use to represent the number 4 doesn't change the concept of 4, but it can change our perception of the concept. When we look at a square, we might see it as a perfect shape with no flaws, or we might see it as a shape that has 4 sides. When we look at a circle, we might see it as a perfect shape with no flaws, or we might see it as a shape that has no sides. In both cases, the concept of the number 4 is the same, but our perception of the concept is different. The same is true for other concepts. The concept of the number 4 doesn't change if we represent it with a square or a circle, but our perception of the concept can change. What if we represented the number 4 with a different shape? For example, what if we represented it with a triangle? Would the concept of the number 4 be the same, or would it be different? When we think of a triangle, we might think of the shape itself, or we might think of the number 3, which is what the shape represents. When we think of a square, we might think of the shape itself, or we might think of the number 4, which is what the shape represents. In both cases, the concept of the number 3 is the same, but it's being represented by different shapes. The shape that we use to represent the number 3 doesn't change the concept of 3, but it can change our perception of the concept. When we look at a triangle, we might see it as a perfect shape with no flaws, or we might see it as a shape that has 3 sides. When we look at a square, we might see it as a perfect shape with no flaws, or we might see it as a shape that has 4 sides. In both cases, the concept of the number 3 is the same, but our perception of the concept is different. The same is true for other concepts. The concept of the number 3 doesn't change if we represent it with a triangle or a square, but our perception of the concept can change. What if we represented the number 3 with a different shape? For example, what if... Little line segment. I don't get it. Mama hypervector, then play with your phone and be quiet. I'm not helping you understand this myth again and again. Little line segment, help me. My hands are tied. Mama hypervector, so help me. I will flog you with my own fiber. The myth maker, yeah, that's enough. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. Fine. The end.